let's jump right into a genuinely fascinating sociological paradox. How exactly do ordinary people build peace while living in the very shadows of extreme geopolitical conflict? Today, this explainer is diving deep into the profound ideas laid out in Natalie G. Turner's work, The Hands That Refuse to Hate. We're going to look at a reality that honestly goes completely unnoticed most of the time. Because while governments are busy declaring enemies and building walls, everyday people are out there quietly finding ways to connect.
Take a look at the cover of Turner's book, which really perfectly captures our entire premise. You've got these official Israeli and Iranian passports, basically the ultimate state-mandated symbols of political division. But look closer. They're being held side by side by hands that just refuse to hate. It is such a brilliant visual metaphor for the constant tension between strict government rules and our natural, organic human empathy.
So here's the core of the issue. While governments construct these incredibly rigid, artificial definitions of an enemy, enforcing them with strict borders, travel bans, and inflexible national identities, the messy, beautiful reality of shared humanity just keeps defying those borders. We're often taught that national identity is this totally fixed thing, but the real world, it's completely fluid. We're talking dual citizens, mixed heritage, and a shared human nuance that literally cannot be boxed in by a line drawn on a map.
All right, let's move into Section 1, the passport contradiction, the shared bureaucratic reality hidden behind enemy flags.
Now, the passport itself is incredibly interesting because it acts as both a barrier and a mirror. Think about it. Despite completely different flags and opposing ideologies, these little documents compress our massive, complex lives into the exact same bureaucratic lines. An Israeli passport and an Iranian passport might represent a huge political clash, but structurally, they're identical. Name, photo, birth date. They function under the exact same global rules, and they actually create a shared vulnerability for everyone standing in line at an international border checkpoint. Moving on to Section 2, Peace Beyond State Power. Where official diplomacy fails, micro-connections begin.
We really have to understand that true peace doesn't magically appear just because state power vanishes. Actually, as the text argues, peace starts to emerge the moment state power proves it's totally insufficient to handle the actual emotional needs of suffering people. The author puts it perfectly, peace is not the opposite of power, but it is born from its limitations. It's right there, in the blind spots where governments exhaust their blunt tools, that alternative, everyday languages of peace really start to flourish.
We see this beautifully illustrated in a story about two artists, one Israeli and one Iranian, who ended up sharing a studio at a neutral art residency in Berlin. They didn't need official treaties or formal diplomacy. It was just the simple, everyday reality of coordinating art supplies and sharing a physical space that sparked this quiet, genuine peace between them. Just by existing together, they completely challenged the inherited narratives of their home countries.
We see a similar thing happening with a covert meeting of students over in Greece. At first, the air was super thick with all the inherited suspicion they've been taught back home. But the moment they dropped the abstract political debates and actually got vulnerable, everything changed. They started swapping stories about the stress of military drafts and the trauma of childhood bomb drills. And instantly, those scary caricatures of the enemy they were supposed to fear were completely shattered.
Let's look at Section 3, Women as Peacebuilders, Feminine Strength versus State Violence. You might not always hear about it on the news, but civilian women are so often the quiet architects of long-term reconciliation. Get this. A United Nations study found that peace agreements are a massive 35% more likely to last at least 15 years when women are involved in the process. 35%! That is a huge statistical leap. But it really begs the question, why?
Well, it comes down to pure pragmatism. Women often bring an entirely different set of priorities to the table, focusing heavily on daily survival and social infrastructure. They are laser-focused on community rebuilding, ensuring access to education, healing trauma, and basically choosing coexistence over a cycle of revenge. They cut right through the macho, abstract posturing of geopolitics and get straight to what actually sustains human life. Which brings us to Section 4, Quiet Acts of Rebellion, when civility becomes resistance. So how exactly do you rebel when taking to the streets for a massive protest just as an option? Well, in heavily regulated systems that demand absolute emotional control and mandate who you're supposed to hate, rebellion actually lives in the mundane. It's a secret smile exchanged with a supposed enemy in a neutral airport. It's the quiet holding of hands across a cultural divide. It's reading a banned poem. These micro-decisions to just maintain basic civility, they become radical acts of political defiance that slowly but surely chip away at the walls dividing us.
And the folks forging these forbidden bonds, they are naive. Not at all. They fully acknowledge the deeply painful and complicated histories of their nations. But they refuse to let that history completely colonize their hearts. As the book so beautifully notes, they are not trying to erase history, they are trying to reclaim the possibility of human relationship within its shadow.
The explainer points out this one incredible exchange that happened completely online. An Israeli student who was researching Persian literature managed to connect with an Iranian user over a 14th century Sufi poem. And what started as just a totally innocent literary question naturally drifted into sharing personal memories. It's absolute proof that digital spaces can seamlessly bypass militarized borders and foster real, deep empathy.
Or consider this scenario, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. You have Israeli and Iranian doctors meeting up at a pediatric oncology conference. Completely defying strict government warnings that told them not to collaborate, they secretly shared life-saving medical research with each other. They made the active choice to put the universal ethics of healing sick kids way above the mandates of any political boycott.
Let's head into our final part, Section 5, Humanity over Hatred, Love, Friendship, and Forbidden Bonds.
All of these incredible, forbidden connections lead us right to the ultimate question. What happens when we actually choose to see each other? Think about it. What happens to that massive, terrifying machinery of war when we finally look past the state propaganda and simply recognize the fragile, enduring human being standing right in front of us?
The biggest takeaway here is that authentic peace isn't just some magical piece of paper signed in a distant room by a bunch of politicians. As the source material puts it perfectly, hope is a habit, not a headline. Peace is a continuous daily practice. It's forged by ordinary people making the habit of choosing decency, choosing curiosity, and choosing human connection over state-sponsored fear, day in and day out.
If you want to deeply understand how authentic peace is really forged by everyday folks choosing humanity over borders, you absolutely have to check out the ultimate guide to this phenomenon. Grab your copy of The Hands That Refuse to Hate, Ordinary People, Extraordinary Peace right now. You can get it by heading over to the link on your screen, https://mybook2/NC01064. As we've seen today, peace isn't just a government policy, it's a deeply personal choice. So, I'll leave you with this. Whose humanity will you choose to recognize today?